Well, hello everybody, the History Guy here. It's been a few days since I've been able to play some Hearts of Iron 4. There was a major upgrade to 1.6 on the game. They do this every time there's a new set of downloadable content, and they had Man the Guns come out, and with it comes a new set of changes to the main game, the vanilla game. Which means most of my mods are not currently working. However, one of the mods that is working is the Great War mod. So while I'm waiting for those other mods to get updated so I can continue some of those other series, I want to play the Great War. And I've done the Great War as Germany and as Austria-Hungary. I have not yet done the Great War from the side of the Entente, the side that had France, United Kingdom, and Russia, and later on America. So I thought I would do that. Now, typically my Hearts of Iron games, I try to do in small chunks of like 20, 25 minutes. I'm going to do this series a little differently. I'm going to have a fewer number of episodes, but make those episodes longer. Now, I'm still going to jump in and out of the action as things happen, rather than just letting you see every last detail. But I will try to show as much of the decisions that I make as possible. But these will be longer episodes, but therefore fewer episodes. So let's jump in. I've never played as France before. We're going to play on regular difficulty. I don't even know what really France has to offer on this side. So we're going to dive in and take a look at it here in just a second. So first things first, as always, it takes a lot of time to get everything set up at the very beginning. So we're going to look at the national focuses. If there's a possibility for me to take France in a very ahistorical direction, I'm certainly going to try to do that. France was right at the center of the decisions that ended up leading to the First World War, because they were kind of the main target of the initial invasion. So we're going to have to decide if that's even a possibility. So I'm going to look these over a little bit and then talk through what it is that I want to do. There doesn't seem to be any way to avoid the inevitable on this, and I feel like the game's done that way on purpose, because I tried that when I was playing as Austria-Hungary to try and avoid the war, but it doesn't appear there's a way to do that. So instead, I'm going to focus on my industry at first, and then eventually we'll support the UK and get the Triple Entente going just for my own protection. So when a war does come, I'm not out there by myself. So we'll get the infrastructure effort going on. And we're going to focus pretty heavily early on industry, so I can do everything I can to get my ability to make war as strong as possible early on. So everything I do is going to be kind of with that in mind. So I'll make a few decisions here and get those things going. So honestly, there's very little you can do in 1910. So we've got Heavy Industry 1, Mass Charge, which is our first land doctrine, the only one I can really research. Human-powered transport, which will improve construction speed, and then improved hand tools. So everything's kind of limited at the moment. Likewise, going to be super expensive to build these civilian factories, but honestly, that's really the only way I've got to go with this right now. So we're going to build up those civilian factories that'll allow me to build things faster. We've got free dockyards, quite a few of them actually. I'm really not going to focus that heavily on the Navy, but we're going to go ahead and finish up the things that are already queued up, since they all seem to be pretty close to being done. Manpower got 1 million, so that's pretty good. Should allow me to get some divisions into the field pretty quick, and I've already got a pretty large army, so I feel like that's good news. Because we are going to have to take on the brunt of the German forces, especially if Russia finds themselves in trouble because of a revolution and dealing with the Austro-Hungarians. So we'll get all that going. I've got 150 government points as well, which means I do have some options as far as what I can do here, but there's not a lot out there. Infrastructure and civilian construction speed, 10% bonus. So that's definitely what we're going to spend our money on right now. Got some issues with chromium. So we're going to have to start trading right off the bat to get chromium and then also rubber. So we'll get all that from the UK because they're close by, and they are going to potentially be allies. And then we're just going to kind of let things unfold. There will be a lot of things happening as time goes on as we march down toward war. There's the first one, Edward VII, who is Queen Victoria's son, has passed away. King George V now rules, and he will rule right up to 1936, which is the typical, the vanilla Hearts of Iron game begins. So a lot of things are going to start happening in the Balkans. There'll be a couple of wars there that happen real quickly early on. None of that really affects me all that much. So things are happening fast, man. This really does sim pretty quickly, at least early on. So we've already completed our first technology, and we're just going to keep on working on all the 1910 technologies. That's really all there is to be done at the moment. And I'm slowly working on getting my army groups up and going here. I've got a lot of divisions to deal with. We're going to go ahead further down this construction effort. We've got armament effort, which will give some military factories, but I want to get the civilian factories first. Oh, man, this one's limited until I can't begin until after January 1911. A lot of these are going to be like that. They really do limit what you're able to do early on. So let's see what we can do here. Assert French position in Central Europe. That's going to get me some political power. So I guess we'll do that for now, with in lieu of anything else there really is to be done. All right, we've done the assert French position in Central Europe, which unlocks anti-German policy, but we're not going to choose that one right now. We are going to focus on consolidating the Entente, which is definitely a concern of mine that I want to make sure I deal with. It looks like I have 110 plus divisions already in the field, which is fantastic. However, I've got to deal with all of this territory, which is basically the Sahara Desert and then some, that I'm really not concerned about dealing with. I just want to focus on mainland Europe and what I have up here. So I'm actually going to, as much as possible, remove those divisions up into Europe. I know I've also probably got some stuff over here in French Indochina, another area I'm really not concerned about, but I guess I've got to at least assign those troops, and I'll probably create a separate theater for that, just so I can keep track of those things. So I've noticed my army is very ill-equipped, and so I've got 23,000 in infantry equipment that I've got to produce just to get the army already in the field up to snuff. So before I go producing any new divisions, I've got to equip the one I already have. So now we've consolidated the Entente, and our first step becomes to support the UK, which it is going to allow me to do right off the bat. Now, this is going to hurt my relations with Russia a little bit, but that's not a huge deal. In fact, if there's any way for France to avoid war, there's a revolution in Mexico. If there's any way for France to avoid World War I, it would be to distance myself from Russia, because it's my alliance with Russia that directly will lead to the war. If you're not familiar with, basically, I'm going to give you like the 30-second description of how this war got started. The heir to the Austria-Hungarian throne is with his wife visiting one of their kind of puppet kingdoms. He's assassinated. That leads to Austria-Hungary issuing this ridiculous set of demands to the Serbians, knowing they're not going to be able to follow through on those demands, knowing that will lead to war. They declare war. That causes Serbia's protectorate, their ally, Russia, to declare war on Austria-Hungary. Well, then France has an alliance with Russia, kind of a mutual defense pact, which means they've got to enter the war. Germany's allied with Austria-Hungary, which means they've got to enter the war. And then the UK enters the war because Germany decides to follow what they know is what's called the Schlieffen Plan, which means they're going to invade through to get around this strong defensive line here against France. They're going to invade over here through Belgium, and that brings the UK into the war, and that's how you get World War I. I'm going to keep working on Cult of the Offensive Doctrine, which is the only offensive set of technology we can go after, and that was kind of the main mindset of most of the European armies at that point, was that idea of the Cult of the Offensive Doctrine. I guess we'll work on our heavy artillery because there's very little else I can work on. Let's get some better dreadnoughts going here. I'm not going to do too much with the Navy, but I am going to do a little bit with the Navy. In the meantime, naval repair crew. Oh, yeah. So some of the new features of the game. Obviously, you've got the naval repair queue. You're going to dedicate naval dockyards to repairing existing ships as needed. You also have fuel, which is now a thing. I've got more than 5 years worth of fuel. We'll see how that is affected once the war actually begins. All right, so it's January 1911, and we've hit 150 again on the political power, and I'm going to switch to partial mobilization, which is going to dramatically speed up how quickly I can build my new factories. And I've also queued up some more because I've built all the other ones. So we're up to actually 26 right now that we're able to get going. And we're definitely going to need some more military factories soon. So once I've maybe spent another year working on civilian factories, I think we'll start working on military factories. And we'll do the national focus that goes along with that. Now that we're into 1911, I think I should be able to go down a little bit on all of that. So let's take a look and see. Oh, we got to get all the way over here. So construction effort, there we go. We're after January 1st of 1911, so that's going to free those up for me. And looking at research, I'm not quite done with Dreadnought 1 yet, so I can't build any of those. So we're working on several destroyers. I want to get some of those into the field. Again, I'm not going to focus real heavy on the Navy, but I do at least want to have a passable Navy here. So let's get some submarines going too. Maybe we'll queue up like 8 of those for now. And of course, once again, research is available, and I don't have a lot, so I'm really just doing anything that's pre-1914 at this point. All right, so we've completed both the 1911 construction and armament efforts. Now we have to wait till 1912 before we can do it again. So now we switch back over here to see what's available. I'm actually, my plan is once the war breaks out to go ahead and release most of my colonies so I don't have to defend all of them and give him territory that he can take over, so let them fend for themselves. But I'm going to wait to do that for now because I'm assuming I'm getting some resources and things of that nature that I want to be able to continue to get. All right, so we are not able to do the triple entente until somebody's at war, I guess. So we need send. No, we don't need both of those. So the UK is at war with the German Empire. France is at war with the German Empire. Neither of which are true. So I guess we can't even do any of that until that happens. So let's go ahead down the internal politics and see what we can come up with there. I've got to start getting some military factories once we get into 1912, 1913, though. Okay, so this concerns us. Provoked by the increasing power of France over the state, Moroccan citizens have begun a rebellion against Sultan, that guy. As French are preparing to lift the siege on the palace in Fez, the Germans have sent SMS Panther to the port of Agadir in support of the rebels. So if nothing is done in this situation, war could break out in Europe. So we've got a crisis that we've got to deal with here. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to break down on my side, but of course it could lead to an early war with Germany. In the meantime, some research has become available. Mobile defense, static defense. I think we're going to go mobile defense. I've got my first dreadnoughts queued up. Treaty of Fez, establish a protectorate. France annexes Morocco. Honestly, I don't want to do that, but I become the owner and controller of Spanish Africa. So yeah, we've gobbled up Morocco. So rather than having less territory in Africa, I've just gained more. So I'm up to at least, let's see, 38 civilian factories now. So let's get just a couple more. We've got 32 that are currently producing things. We've definitely got to switch to military factories before long. So I'm going to go ahead and go down anti-German policy, and here's why. It looks like we can send the French diplomats. Maybe we'll do that first. The reason why is Italy's a big question mark in all of this. Italy could go either way, and I definitely want them on my side in this war as they were historically. So I want to make sure that happens, and there are some things that we can do here to support the Italian claims and hopefully get them on our side. There's also the possibility of getting Greece some allied bases, but that's a stretch because the Ottomans will probably come in on the side of the Central Powers, and that kind of leaves those things hanging out there to dry. So we'll start down that road just because I'm thinking long term, and I definitely want Italy on our side, because that's another front that opens up against Austria-Hungary and certainly stretches his armies a little bit more. So we completed all those submarines. So I think we're going to go ahead and let's do some armored cruisers here. Maybe we'll queue up like, I don't know, 5 of those, 6 of those. Looks like we can do more than that. So, oh, what's happening here? The Qing Dynasty. So there's a war in China happening. All right. So we'll go ahead and queue up. We've got plenty of convoys. Let's get a few destroyers going. Get like 10 of those bad boys. 11. That works. We also have the ability to do some more to modify the government. 15% bonus to stability. That's nice. That gets me up to 87% stability. Feels like that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and get a few more military factories going. Start ramping up my production. I do have 800,000 available in manpower. I've got a nice amount of divisions. What I don't have is equipment, so I want to be able to replenish those as need be. All right, we got our anti-German policy. Now let's add the anti-Austria-Hungarian Empire policy to that. We are in late 1911. 1916 is the next round of all of this stuff here. We'll go ahead and work on our trench research a little bit. Going to be digging plenty of those when the time comes. Italy has declared war on the Ottomans. They're invading Libya. So Italy's doing their expansionist thing. That's fine. That just means it's that much more important for us to be friends with them because they'll be bordering us down there. All right, so we've made it now to where we're going to support the Italian claims. Let's get the Italians on our good side. You can see it gains, Italy's going to gain a faction influence with us. We're going to gain a national spirit of democratic influence, which grants a daily democracy support plus 10, or 0.10. Acceptance of democratic diplomacy plus 85. Gets event. So that's all good news. That starts moving Italy our direction. That's what we want. And the earlier we can do that, I think the better off we will be long term. Again, not a lot I can do at this point. We can work on air doctrine even if we're not working on air power itself. I made the mistake of getting my Navy going, just doing some patrols, and I instantly ran out of fuel completely. So, bad idea. Lesson learned very quickly. Let's shut these guys down. Just tell them to do nothing for a while so we can start building up that fuel again, because I was down to 0 fuel instantly. They used all of it within a couple of days. Okay, so I'm learning the new concepts in the game, and one of those is gotta trade for oil. So I've queued up a bunch of trade for oil from the United States, and now you can see my current fuel is rapidly going back up. So we're going to max that fuel capacity out. I don't know if there's a way to increase fuel capacity, so maybe if you're watching and you know what that is, let me know. Because in 65 days, I'm going to completely max out, but I know that my huge Navy will use that very quickly when the time comes. So we bypass the Agadir crisis because we've already dealt with that. So now we've got the option to prepare for war, which is going to give me 100,000 bonus to my manpower, which is nice. Then we've got a couple of choices here, but none of them appear. Well, we can build some land forts, so that's good. Then we can demand Alsace-Lorraine back. That actually would declare war on Germany. So we're probably not ready to do that yet, but then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm better off fighting Germany now than later, but I think we'll wait for now. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and look over here at what other options are available. We can go ahead and do infrastructure effort. It's after January of 1912. Oh man, I just realized it's the week of the Titanic sinking, so we've got to watch that unfold. I'm sure we get a notification about that right now. Yes, there it is, sinking the Titanic. Terrible, terrible thing that happened. If you're not familiar with it, watch the movie, subtract the love story and the fictional characters, and you have what happened to the Titanic. So right here is the fuel silo, which is how we increase our capacity for fuel. Now, Serbia has declared war on the Ottoman Empire, which is something that happened. There were a couple of wars there. Did not go well for the Ottoman Empire, which was in steep, steep decline by this point. This is an empire that had been very powerful for 500 years, but by the time World War I, they were definitely way, way downhill. So let's see how much these fuel silos actually add to our capacity, because I'm thinking once war breaks out, it's going to be important to have those. War in the Balkans, yep, we know that's happening. We've also got no national focus set, so we got to go to 1913 before we can get another one. So, you know what? How about air power? No. And I'm not going to worry about developing the colonies, because we're going to let those bad boys go when the time comes. We can't get Belgium to join the Entente until the war breaks out. So that leaves me with my political decisions that I can make. We can go ahead and do prepare for war and get that 100,000 people. I guess we'll do that first. Where are we at on... Okay, these are all 1914, which we're not at yet. So, unfortunately, that's not an option. 1913 for this first step toward tanks, so we'll go ahead and do that. So it appears that each fuel silo improves my capacity by 100,000. So that's a massive amount of fuel that I can store if I queue up a few more of these bad boys, and they construct pretty quickly as well. So we're going to queue up a few more of those. That'll just at least give me a little bit of backup where fuel is concerned, in case I get into issues with importing fuel once the war breaks out. There's prepare for war. So now there's very little else I can do in that way. I can build up these land forts, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I've also moved part of my army over here to the border with Belgium, at least so I have somebody there, knowing that Germany's probably not going to invade me directly through this area that we know as the Maginot Line. So I've gone ahead and made a couple of changes to my infantry divisions to get them to that magic combat width number of 20. So I removed a couple of infantry battalions, added an artillery and a heavy artillery, and that gets us to 20. So there'll be some changes that'll need to be made to all of those, and it means needing to produce heavy artillery, which I'm not right now. So we're going to start queuing that up. I think that'll probably be helpful for me moving forward to have that heavy artillery in there. All right, we've completed our latest national focus. We're going to start working on the internal policies now, and I think we're going to go ahead and stay with democracy. I don't usually do that because I like to get a little ahistorical with this game, but this one we're going to kind of follow the normal path, and we'll stick with democracy. We are almost into 1913. Once we get into 1914, things are going to happen fast and furious, and I'll probably at least take this episode all the way right up to the brink of war. We'll see how long it is at that point. All right, we're working our way down this national focus tree. We're all the way down to revoke the Vivani administration. Gaining a lot of political points right now, which don't necessarily do a lot of good for me, but will probably come in handy later on. We're working on our flying corps. We've actually started building my first fighters. So I'm working on getting a fighter squadron going. I'm also building aerodrome, as I guess they were known back then, up here that's a little closer to the German lines to give me a little bit more range into Germany for air superiority if and when that time comes. It is 1914, and we are pressing on toward war. I've started building trenches all the way along the border with Belgium, anticipating that the Germans will probably go with the Schlieffen plan. I'm also going to start ramping up the number of divisions that I'm putting into the field. I've got 1 million in manpower, but that's deceiving because I've got 1 million men in the field, and I expect heavy casualties. I want to be able to replace those losses. I'd rather have fewer divisions on the front, but that I can easily replace, than have a bunch of divisions in the field, but no men to replace the ones that I lose. So I am continuing to build about 4 divisions on average every month or two, but no more than that right now. But the war is coming, and it's coming soon. March of 1914, now I can start focusing on getting my military up to speed here, and that means things like motorized vehicles, which is going to vastly improve the efficiency of the forces that I have while I simultaneously work on building up. Now, my manpower just jacked up all the way to 1.49 million. I'm not entirely sure why, but at this point I really need to, I think, go ahead and recruit some additional infantry divisions, just because I've got the manpower for those, and I want to start getting some. I think we'll get ourselves a few Alpine divisions as well. I didn't mean to do it like that, but just because I'm thinking in places like Italy, if we do have to fight, or even in certain parts of Germany, having a few of those will certainly come in handy. So we're going to start queuing all that up and start rushing more units into the field with war rapidly approaching. So we're into July of 1914. I'm going to go ahead and let this play out a little bit because this is where things are going to go south and go south fast. It all starts with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo. So that'll be coming up soon. It was done probably with the knowledge, if not the help, of people inside the Serbian government helping. And that's, of course, what leads to the whole mess that it is. And we can't go any further down this way, so let's go ahead and focus on our air power a little bit here. We're going to go ahead and watch. I think right around the end of July is when this all goes down. And I'm working on getting my 1914 Army research all complete. So here we go. Let's see how this all unfolds now. Nothing is happening. Okay. I'm a little surprised we haven't gotten a notification about the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. I don't know if that's a decision that the Serbians get to make, and maybe it just didn't happen. All right, well, we'll drop out, and if anything happens, I'll let you know, but we should be pretty much at war by now. See, the assassination actually happened at the end of June 28th of 1914. July was when all the diplomacy was going on, trying to avoid war. Everybody wanted to avoid war, I think, except for the generals involved, who all were kind of ramping up and making sure that they weren't caught kind of unprepared. So I guess it's now up to us to decide whether or not we want war to happen, because it's obviously not going to happen on its own. So I want to see what Germany's up to. They're restructuring Dutch East Africa, so they're focusing on their colonies in Africa right now, or Germany to East Africa, not Dutch. I saw Deutsch. Reorganization Act happening here with the Austro-Hungarians. I don't know what the Serbians are up to. They're just up to doctrine effort. So I guess nothing's happening right now. So now we have to decide whether or not we want to eventually kind of claim Alsace and go to war that way. Okay, so here it goes. We've got October 1914. The Austro-Hungarian Empire has just declared war on Serbia, which is what started all of this. So let's read. Every day, more harrowing news comes in from the Austro-Serbian border. Another German storefront with a bomb thrown in. Another attack on a Habsburg official. More vandalism, more looting. Almost all of the arrested criminals have ties to Serbia, and even some allege government instruction. Serbia has been instructed to use its military to keep the peace, but they have done no such thing. And they even seem to continue urging these crimes. Kaiser Franz Joseph has sent out to the Serbian government demanding full military cooperation with the Austrian army until this issue is resolved. So let's see if this starts the dominoes. So there's an assassination in a Parisian cafe. That happens every time. All right. Germany has declared war on Belgium. Russia declares war on Austria. Here we go. It's just happening later than usual. So we are about to go to war. So now we're going to go ahead and, well, we've got to join the war before we can do the triple entente focus. So Belgium is calling me to arms. Now here's the thing. I could say no and stay out of this if I want to, but where would the fun in that be? So we're going to go to war with Germany and Austria-Hungary. We can now invite folks to our faction. Let's go ahead and do that. Please join. That now means I should be able to do the triple entente national focus. It's only going to take a week to do that. Who else can we invite? Oh, the UK. Yes, please join us. So here we go. Right now you can see the Germans and the Austrians have a greater fielded manpower than we do, but we're going to do everything we can to fix that and fix it quickly. Things are going to slow down mightily now. Oh my gosh. Here comes the ton of new war participants. We're not going to worry about reading all of it. We're just going to see what it looks like. Now, we've got 3.85 million to their 3.16 million, and we don't even have Russia in this thing. Oh yeah, we do. There's Russia right there. So now it's going to get crazy, folks. And we will do a little bit of this war just to kind of get our feet wet. And we'll see how this all goes down. There's the Triple Entente. I'm probably going to slow things down now just because it's going to be too much to go this fast. Because we are still simming fairly quickly. So we'll slow things down at least at first while I see what's happening. All right, we've got a little bit of an issue right now with air superiority, so I'm going to get some of these fighter wings doing air superiority here in France. Luxembourg is capitulated. Well, thanks for sticking around in the war for a couple of days there, Luxembourg. I appreciate that. So now we've got these airships waiting for orders. I guess we'll do strategic bombing for now. There's only 7 of them, but we are going to build some more. So let's see what the casualty situation is going to start looking like. I don't think there is any so far. Well, yeah, 788. You mean to tell me Luxembourg capitulated and there were less than 1,000 casualties when it happened? Man, their manpower is going up quickly. So we can start a Lend-Lease with Tunisia. We've got 2.575 or 2.57 million in available manpower. So I should have been jacking up those divisions sooner than I did. If I'd have known I was going to end up with that much manpower, I probably would have. I don't think I want to invade. I think I want to just sit tight and let him break his armies against me as much as possible, rather than trying to go on the offensive. I don't know that that would be a good idea for me right now. I want to see what Russia does. Looks like so far so good for them. UK is calling all of their friends in places like Nepal and India to the war. There's Australia. So we're getting a lot of little folks into it now. Up to 4.28 million. 6,000 casualties, none of them mine so far. French support for the war effort. Canada has joined. There's British Raj, that's India. You know, I guess we could see what happens. Nah, it doesn't look like it's a tremendously good idea for me to jump off on the offensive here, but, you know, maybe we'll give it a try. Nah, bad idea. All right, so we'll kind of let things go a little bit and we'll see what happens here. Well, that's super unfortunate. Italy has decided to honor their alliance. They've joined the Central Powers. Yeah, I was trying to avoid that. I guess I might not have. So we're going to have to get some additional divisions down here on the border with Italy if they end up jumping into this war, as it appears they have. Okay. So that means an additional kind of problem we've got there. But that actually might work out for me because it gives me somewhere I can probably invade with relative ease. I guess we'll find out, and it looks like I can. So big mistake, Italy. That's what you get for thinking, man. Should not have gone that way. And it looks like the Russians have divisions on my side of things. So that's very cool. Russians are sending some units down to help in the invasion of Italy. Wow. Who lost all these men? 72,000. That's got to be the Russians. Yeah, they've lost 60,000 men already. Massive amounts of troops on both sides. Looks like Austria-Hungary's lost some territory. Russia has got their hands full. I may have to open this thing up sooner rather than later to help them out. All right, now that the war has broken out, this is something I want to go ahead and do. I'm going to go ahead and release my colonies. We're going to release Cameroon, Middle Congo, Morocco. I have no interest in trying to manage massive colonies overseas. So I'm basically going to release everybody, let them fend for themselves so it doesn't become a way that these enemies can get at me. So liberating large parts of the world, large parts of Africa and Southeast Asia. It does mean I'm going to have units that are stranded other places, but I'm not too particularly concerned about that right now. And that, of course, does hurt things like my tungsten, but we can get that from other places like Portugal. It does hurt a lot of the available resources I had, but I'm not too particularly concerned about that. We'll go ahead and get these guys out of here some way, somehow. Things have taken a turn for the worse in the invasion of Italy. That's suddenly not going so well with all that, all the mountains there. That's just, it's kind of a real problem. But it looks like right now, I don't know if Belgium's just holding their own or if Germany just hasn't decided to march through there yet. All right, so we're going to push up here right to the river. I guess that's probably the Rhine. So we're going to try to break out at least up to that point. I know it's going to be more difficult to cross the river once we get there, but if I can keep a lot of pressure on Germany in the west, it means that he can't have as many divisions dedicated to dealing with the Russians in the east. And the longer this goes on, the worse it gets for me, because Russia's going to be dealing with civil war and eventually might get knocked out altogether. So the quicker I can deal with Germany, the better. And right now, you can see the casualties are higher on my side, but we also have more men. So hopefully we can handle that. Most of that's the Russians. They've lost 216, 217, 220. So they've lost 2/3 of the force right now. But if I can at least break through out to the Rhine River, I'll feel like I'm doing something to aid the cause. Meanwhile, things are not at all going well down here. I feel like I need a nuke, but of course that's not an option in World War I, to have nuclear weapons to kind of soften up this line along the mountains here. So I'm going to have to get some more help down there. Maybe get some air power, start bombing these guys into oblivion. Maybe that'll make a difference. But for now, I think I'm probably going to just call it quits on doing anything against Italy except just holding the line, because I'm losing a lot of unnecessary casualties doing that. Oh, darn it, no. Did I oh, good night. I just made a mistake there. I accidentally ordered all of my units that are on the line with Germany to go after France. So we're going to fix that up real quick, or to go after Italy. Let's make sure they don't do that. This is occasionally what happens when I'm not paying the proper attention to things. So we'll get these guys back where they're supposed to be and back across that line. And this is the order that we want to give to halt all these operations against these forces in Italy. Well, there's some good news. The Empire of Japan has joined as an ally in the war, and we've kind of regained what I messed up here in Germany, and we continue the advance. This is the exact opposite of what really happened in the early stages of this war, as Germany actually had a lot of success marching into France before they kind of stalled outside of Paris. And then things didn't really change a whole lot after that. And we're just going to kind of hang tight down here with Italy. I don't know what in the world happened with my political power, but it's at like minus 9,400. Because I went to try and create an additional general for my new divisions that got into the field. But I can't do that because I have no political power with which to do it. So here we go, almost 1 million casualties already. Massive casualties on my side compared to what the Central Powers are suffering so far. But the good news is the war is going well. Despite that, and I've got plenty of manpower. Manpower is not going to be an issue for a long, long time. So as we get into 1915, I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. I think that's a good point to stop for episode 1. We've gone through nearly 5 years of this game now, and we're well into World War I. So we're going to see what happens, see if we can't continue to push Germany. It's going to be a slugfest, but hopefully between what I'm doing and what the Russians can do, well, the Russians aren't doing much right now. It looks like Germany's having their way with Russia, as is Austria-Hungary. So that's not good. I may have to do more of this than I'd really care to. But the good news is we're pushing back against Germany. So let me know your thoughts. We'll play through this series maybe once every couple of days until my other ones are up and running. Once those are, I'll get those finished off and probably take this to once a week until it's done. I don't want to have a bunch of series in Hearts of Iron 4 going at the same time, but I just can't play the other ones right now. So please subscribe, please hit that thumbs up, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for watching.